Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, we are going to building a banking ledger system. For building this system, we are going to use the Spring Boot. As a database, I am going to use the MySQL. This project basically follows the double entry accounting principle. Just like real world financial software used in banks, fintech application and ERP softwares. We will explain the real world significance of this, walk through a use case like a wallet transfer between users, and implement the complete backend application step by step here. Let's just try to understand why double entry accounting. Let's start with the why. In double entry accounting, every financial transaction affects two accounts. One account is debited and another one is credited. Means there is a double entry transaction. This ensures that the books are always balanced, auditable and transparent. If you have used app like Google Pay or Phone Pay or any other wallet app, this concept is at play behind the scene. Imagine someone or maybe Alice sends $200 to Bob using a wallet application. So behind the scene what it will happen? The system performs two actions. It will debit the $200 from Alice wallet and it will credit the $200 into the Bob account. Together they form a double entry transaction that will ensuring money is properly tracked. Without this system, errors or inconsistencies would go unnoticed. With double entry, your ledger is always in sync. So let's quickly understand what we are going to build here. A Spring Boot application that allows you to like create accounts, then record transaction using the double entry method, fetch all transaction, get account balances in real time, and get balance by account ID, get transaction by account ID. So this kind of APIs we're going to build in this Spring Boot applications. Okay. So we will use basically Spring Boot for the backend logic, Spring Data JPA for database interaction, and as a database, either you can use H2 in-memory database or MySQL. So I'm using the MySQL database here. As you can see over here, I am using all the MySQL related informations over here. So our database basically is divided into a few keys parts. One is the entities, that is means account and transaction. That's two entities we are going to create here. Then repositories, JP interfaces for DB access, service layer where the main code logic we need to implement, which will basically do this double entry transactions as well as some other APIs over there. Then controller, the REST APIs basically we need to expose to the users, and related DTOs which basically do all these APIs here. Now basically we are going to do the coding. So before going to the coding actually, okay, what we are going to do, just try to understand the project structure. So here this is the Spring Boot application I have created from this Spring Initializer. If you are, I believe you guys already aware of it that how to create the application. And here after creating the applications, I have import this as a Maven project into this Eclipse editor. You guys can use any editor, what is your favorite. After that, I have added this database related informations over here. So for that, I have added these URLs, then username, password, then sequels is true, then Hibernate dialect. So this is the application properties for this database. So this is the schema name for banking ledger that I'm keeping the name something like that so that you can understand easily. Okay. So now basically what we are going to do, we are going to create entities over here. So let me create one package over here which will basically contains these two entity. One is the account and another one is the transaction. So entity we are going to create over here. So this is the package. Now here uh, we are going to put this we are going to create. So this account entity basically contains let's say we are having this ID which is basically generating this auto generated values and then name, and this transaction basically having this ID, again it's auto generated, then account mapping, amount, type of the transaction either maybe debit or maybe credit, then account description and the timestamp. So these two entities we have created for now. Next, we are going to create repository. So repository is basically to manage the accounts. For that, we need to create the account repository, and for maintaining the transaction for account, we need to create the transaction repository. These interfaces will allow us to query data with manual code also. So here basically uh, next we are going to creating the repository. So here we need to create another package. Let me create this package dot repository. Okay, and here basically we are going to keep these two repository. One is the account repository and another one is transaction repository. Now this account repository, if you see, it's extend this JPA repository, similar for this JPA repository, and it's here basically we have created another uh, like another method which will basically fetch the details based on the account ID. Like based on the account, we need to fetch the transaction. So these two repositories we have created now. Let me close all the details, all the classes, open classes. Okay. Now after that, uh, we need to expose our features via REST APIs using transaction controller. So here basically we are going to include many APIs like for creating this double entry transaction, then get all transaction, get balance for an account, creating the new account, getting the all accounts, then get account balance, then list all transaction. So these are the APIs we need to create over here. So let me create those uh, controller, or maybe before that we need to create the service layer. So let me create dot service layer. Let me create this account service here. Account service. Okay, so account service basically here if you see we have having this account repository, and here we are doing the constructor injection. This repository already we have created, and here using this constructor injection we are initializing this repository. For creating the account, we just need to pass this name, and here we have created one object for this entity, and just we are setting the name, and based on this repository we are saving the account information into the database. Once we are going to saving this one, then automatically it will generate the ID, because if you see the ID, this is the generated identity, means it will be auto generated, right? So this is for the create account. For get all accounts using this repository actually already having this default methods find all. Find by ID also, this is the default method that is already provided by this JPA repository, because if you see the interface is basically empty. So that means those methods are coming from this JPA repository. So these methods we have not created. These are already provided by the JPA repository. So this find all, using this find all, we are fetching all the accounts, and by ID it will only return only the single account information. If this ID is not available, then we are throwing this runtime exception and giving the methods message that account not found with this ID. So this is about this account service. Next, we are going to implement the transaction service. So for that, we need to create this transaction DTO. So let me create this transaction DTO. New package dot DTO. Then here we are going to use this transaction request. Okay. So now here, if you see, so this method basically, okay, before going to this method, first of all, we have used this dependencies here: transaction repository, account repository, and the account service repository. So here also we are doing the constructor injection, but we are not creating the constructor manually. Here we have created the constructor manually, but here we have mentioned this required arg constructor. So it will do the things for us. We don't need to write the constructor manually here. So it will do the same thing as we have created similar kind of thing over here. So this is coming for this Lombok actually provide this kind of like this kind of annotation. Okay. Now if we talked about this double entry transaction, so for that we need to use this request. So this request, if we talked about, so it's having this debit account ID, means from which account we are going to debit the uh, amount, and for which this is the ID for the credit account, from to where we are going to credit the amount, how much amount basically we need to do transaction, and description of this transaction. So here if you see, first of all we see that amount should be always greater than 0, because negative is not possible, right? If greater than or equal to 0, then we need to throwing that illegal argument exception, means amount must be greater than 0. Then we are checking the debit account is exist into the account table or not. Similar for the credit account, because account are not exist into the database, then obviously we can't do the transaction. So before going to the saving the details, we just need to check that credit or debit account are exist into a database or not. If not, then we are throwing this illegal argument exception, means invalid debit account ID as well as invalid credit account ID if they are not exist into the database. If it is exist, then it will not throw this exception. Now we are preparing the details over here, means this is the basically entity. If you see, this is the database entity. So here we are putting this account amount. These are the details we are putting over here. This is the debit account, then amount, then so here if you see, for debit basically we are doing the negate transaction. Let's say $100 debited for this particular account, so it will be minus 100 will be stored into this database, and for credit it will be positive amount. So this is the debit transaction, this is the credit transaction, and then we are storing this information into the transaction banking ledger transaction table. Using this transaction repository.save, we are storing this debit as well as the credit transaction, right? And also we are using the transactional, means if let's say here we have saved the data, but after saving the information for this debit, let's say there is some certain issues while saving the information for the credit, so it will roll back the debit transaction also, means it will maintain the consistency between two transactions, either all save or nothing will save. So this is the thing it will follow for this transactional. Next, so for adding, means if we want to add the transactions for particular account, so for that we need to like we have added this method. It will just do the credit of this transaction. Let's say there is a transaction account A, credit account ID1, and over there we need to add this whatever the amount it is, so that we can add easily using this add transaction. Get all transactions, so using the find all method here, using get account balance. If we need to get the account balance, so we need to pass the account ID here. Then we need to use validating this account ID is exist into the database or not. If it is exist, then it return the account details, else it will throw illegal argument exception. And then finding the account, and then we need to means adding the amount for this particular account and get transaction by account ID. So it will return all the transaction for this account. Let's say they have 10 transactions, so it will return all the transaction over here. Now basically I need to add one controller over here, from where I need to call all these methods, all these service methods actually. So let me create another package dot controller. Okay, so here, okay, so we need to add more details over here. Here, okay, so this is the for the account response, and this is for the create account request. Okay, so now controller, first of all we need to create the account. This is the request. We just need to pass this name, and then we are just calling this create account. It will create the account into the database. Next, if we want to add the transaction, then here this is the request for that, and then it will call this add transaction method to add the transaction for particular account. Okay, now it will fetch all the accounts. If we want to accounts by account ID, so it will basically fetch the balance for particular account. This is fetch all the transaction, like it will queries from this one banking ledger transaction, and it will return all the transaction for all the accounts. This will be return the transaction for particular account, and this will create the double entry transaction. Okay, like if we want to transfer from one account to another. So this is actually overall the things for this banking ledger system. Now next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start this application, and using the postman I'm going to demonstrate that how we are going to manipulate the data, or how we are going to create the account, how we are going to add the transaction, how we are going to call other APIs, so that you guys can understand that how it will be look like. Okay, so let's start this application, and I'll also configure this URL from the postman, and then we will see how it is working, and also I will check from the database after saving the information into the database. So from here we can start this application, run as Java application, and then from the postman we can see that how this all APIs are working. Before going to the detail of it, like first of all, like before executing any APIs, first of all we need to create the account, because without account we can't do any transaction, right? So first of all we need to create the account, and then we need to see that other APIs. So let it start. So you can see the application got started. Okay, now okay, if you see that application got started, right? So let me clean the console here. Okay, we can also see the database that these two tables got created over here, right? Currently it is empty. Okay, now from the postman, so here this is the postman collections for adding account, add the transaction, then transfer the amount. So let me create the add account. Okay, so this is the API. Then here we are going to name, like let's say account A. Okay, so if you see that, okay, so this account A got created. Let create another account B. So account B also got created. The ID is 5. So now if we see this account table, if you see 4 and 5, these are the auto generated ID, and this is the account A, this is the account B. Now if we want to add some transaction for account A, account B, so So for credit account will be, let's say, 4, and here we are going to add $1,000. So for this is for the 4 account, so this is the 4, like let's say account A. So if you see the $1,000 rupees added for this account 4. Similar kind of we can add some amount to account B, let's say $500. Okay, so it will be added. If you see 200, and now the similar data is added for this 5 account. Okay, the ID is 5, so $500 will be added. So this is account B, this is account A. So for account A, actually we are having this $1,000, and for this account B we are having this $500 balance. So these are the done. Now it will basically fetch all the accounts. So currently we are having 2 accounts, so that's why it return all the account to return these 2 account. Get balance by account ID. So let's say this we are passing this account ID is 2, but account ID 2 is not over here. So that's why it will return that 500 internal server error. It will throw the runtime exception. We can wrap it some another exception, and we can give some kind of customization method over here. If you see the message is invalid account ID. Now let pass this 4, because 4 account ID is already we are having into our databases. So it will give us for the 4 we are having this $1,000 balance. If it is for 5, then it will give us 500 balance. Correct? Okay. Now get all transactions. So currently we don't have any transaction, so that's why it will, okay, we are having 2 transaction, correct? So this is the 2 transaction, so this 2 transaction will come. This is the 4 account A, it's having this credit of $1,000, and for the account 5 account B, it's having this 500. Now actually we need to do the transfer account. So from where to where we are going to do transaction. So let's say this account A is having this 1000 and account B is having the 500. So now let's transferring the 200 amount from account A to account B. Okay. So here, so debit account will be 4 and the credit account will be 5. And now here we are going to passing, let's say 200. Okay, so let do the transaction. Okay, transaction is saved. So now what will happen? So now we are, so $200 will be debited from this account 4 and 200 will be credited from the account 5. So now uh, account A was having balance 1000 and account B was having balance 500. Now the updated balance will be 800 and the 700, right? So now get balance by account ID. So let's see. So this is the 700 for account B, and for account A will be 800. Now if we open the database, so if you see that, so there is a minus 200 from this account A, this is debit, and credit from this account B, that is 5. So that means here we are maintaining this credit and debit, that means 2 entry for this same transaction, right? So this is the 2 entry process. So now get transaction by account ID. So let's say here we are passing the 4. So it will return all the transaction for this account A. So this is the one transaction credit and this is the debit, right? Similar for this account B. So here also there is one credit and this is the debit. Okay, 2 credit because 500 previously we have credited and now we have transferred from account A to this account B is 200. So total balance for this 700. Okay, and get balance. So it is also showing this 800. So this is in this way basically if you see all the sequels basically are printed over here. Whatever the sequel is actually while doing this kind of transaction. So actually internally it doing inserting, then updating, all this kind of activities is doing. Okay, so this is basically about this double entry system. So as you can see, this is actually working as expected. So that's it for today. If you guys have anything, please do let me know. So now basically we have built kind of real world inspired banking ledger system using a Springboard and complete with double entry accounting. If this was helpful, like the videos, share it with fellow developers and subscribe for more real world Java tutorials. Check the description for the GitHub repo and code. See you in the next one. Thanks for your time. Bye bye.